All right, here we are. Here we are. Here we are. How you feeling today, Will?
Man, I am feeling refreshed.
Awesome.
I needed a Friday, and it's been a crazy Friday, but it's been a good Friday. It's one of those days where there's a lot of work, but it's all good stuff coming down. So I am excited. We got a lot of activity going on in Foundation Land that's
So much.
leading to some cool stuff, man.
Absolutely, yeah. And you were just doing some planning for the June event. You want to talk about that for a second?
I do, and especially this is directed to anybody listening at home today that is of interested, I guess, in our efforts on our War Cry for Change initiative. And we've got Derek Blumke with us today. He's going to be telling us a little bit more about that later. But the nutshell version is we're getting down in D.C. on June the 5th. We are going to raise a little hell there in our nation's capital and bring attention to this horrible problem of overprescriptions of these psychotropic medications. We're going to be doing a big press conference. We're going to be screening a very special movie the night before. There on the night of the 4th. And Derek can tell us a little more about that later. And then we're going to have a press conference, and we're going to do a healing hike where we're going to try to get everybody equipped with some empty pill bottles. And we've commissioned a big skull. We're going to take that skull and put it somewhere very prominent. And then we're going to do a hike down to that skull. And we're going to throw those pill bottles on it. And we're going to have a little rally and spit some truth. Then we're going to go back and do a big symposium where we're bringing in some of the best and brightest minds from literally across the planet.
Awesome.
To just raise hell on this thing. So
awesome.
That's a big thing.
You're reminding me, I'm thinking back to after my second tour in Iraq, I was referred to and got placed on a bunch of different medications for mental health, for anxiety. And I remember asking at one point after I'd started taking them, like, when can I get off of these? And they basically said, you can't, right, because it'll cause suicidal thoughts. And I was like, wait, hold on. So I started taking a bunch of pills for an anxiety problem, and if I get off of it, I might kill myself.
Yeah,
you know?
and the pills might make you want to kill yourself too. So it's a Faustian bargain, man.
It was, and thankfully I am not on any pharmaceuticals as of right now. After like 20 years of being in the pharmaceutical trap, I'm yes, absolutely. But I look forward to hearing from Derek and talking about that. And actually, that's what our agenda today starts out with. So, our director of marketing, Anna, Anna is a Marine Corps sergeant veteran. She's a veteran. She got out as a Marine Corps sergeant. And she dealt with the overprescription problem in a very personal way. So we're going to hear her story.
Oh, good.
She had mentioned that to me earlier in the week. She had mentioned, we keep talking about overprescription in the veteran community. Do you want to hear my story? And she started sharing a little bit of it. And I was it was one of the more jaw-dropping stories I've heard.
Really?
Yeah. And so I wanted to have Derek on from War Cry for Change. Obviously, we've got this big June event coming up in Washington, D.C. to bring attention to this matter. But also Derek, I wanted him to hear her story and react, and ask her some questions about it, and then talk maybe about some patterns that he's seen in the data around what she's sharing and how this happens and how many veterans are caught in this cycle.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So we'll get into that kind of second half of the show. We definitely want to start out with getting into our integration retreat, which is the GSF IW retreat that is happening in Indiana next weekend.
I love integration retreats.
Yeah, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So as you know from the other ones that we've already had, holistic healing modalities. So helping people who have been leaning heavily in the veteran community. We lean heavily on alcohol and pharmaceuticals. I did for 20 years. And this is the opportunity at these integration events. You're not going to come and you're not going to be healed. We're not trying to sell any kind of, a guru, like you're going to go through some sort of, silver bullet. We're going to fix all your emotional problems. But we are going to introduce you to a dozen healing modalities that you've never been able to interact with before, and you're going to dip your toe into whichever ones you feel comfortable doing that with. And you'd be shocked. The people that come to this retreat almost always say that they found something new in their mind and their heart was open to some new healing that they had no idea, or they prejudged something, or they misjudged something and they thought it was too stupid, or they thought it was like, there's no way that
Well,
actually helps people.
We're conditioned to think that anything that's not been indoctrinated to us is somehow weird, and you should feel weird about looking into these things.
Right.
So it's that's really the biggest hurdle, man. It's like once you can get over the fear of being outside of the herd, then if you can do that, then all these doors open, and there are many paths up the mountain. Just we got to open the gate to get to the damn paths, you know.
Yes.
And that's the hardest part. It's getting over ourselves. So that's the whole intent, is try to get people inspired to take that step and play a different game. So that's what we're wanting to do.
That's so true, because you learn as you get older, and you try all the things that society pitches at you, one after another, all these solutions to your emotional problems, right? They're all external, and they all cost money, and you got to trust your doctor and take your pills, or you got to, take another shot, or, take another shot of alcohol, or, this guru or that guru or whatever, and you end up finding out that only you know the healing journey for you.
The answers are always inside us.
Yes, like only you know the correct path for you, and maybe it's bonding with a horse and doing meditation and the gym, and there's like this balance that you get to where you realize, oh, I just need to be exposed to a bunch of things and see what my heart calls me to.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean? Instead of, oh, this is the solution for you. Read this book and you're going to be fixed. I mean, I don't know about you, but I spent 30 years trying to find the silver bullet, and there's no silver bullet.
There is no
right?
silver bullet. There's just varying degrees of widths of the path that you're on.
Sure.
Do you want a narrow, straight one that's going to take you so far? Do you want a long, curvy one that's going to take you down a bunch of weird back alleys and rabbit holes that are ultimately going to be super beneficial and incredibly interesting along the way, but it's going to take your time? I mean, you got to find what speaks to you. And we're filming a couple of podcasts after we do this. Actually, we're going to be talking to Dr. Scott,
Cool.
who I still have yet to set with him. So we're going to be rectifying that this month as well. Next week when we're in Indiana, I'm going to be sitting with Dr. Scott, because holy crap, man!
Group meditation,
The feedback and the stories that have come out of his classes, both at the IW conference and when we did integration back in September last year. I'm intrigued. So, and he'll also be doing a workshop for us in St. Louis this month, again on the third Wednesday of the month there in our corporate office. So
Wonderful. Yes, I will definitely prioritize attending that for sure. But yeah, let's bring up Stacy. Hey, Stacy, how's it going? Great to see you in
great.
Great to see you in wonderful Indiana. We can't wait to come down there to the retreat next weekend, and I would love to hear all about it, all the juicy details. What do you got in store for us? Especially food. I'm very interested in the food.
We are so excited. So obviously, Hoosier hospitality is kind of my thing coming from Indiana. So we got food covered. And let me tell you about the Indiana VFW. They're teaming up with us, and they are going to be helping cook for us and prepare food all weekend. We have some really awesome barbecue chef that is preparing smoked turkey and also smoked pork. Just a lot of really great food opportunities. We're going to feed and love on our veterans because that's what we do. But we also have so many great healing modalities coming. And that's really what's exciting for me as a local coordinator. We know that veterans don't often seek out things, especially if they're struggling. It's easier if we're able to present a lot of things and they feel comfortable in what they're comfortable with, and learn something new, and hopefully take something away from the weekend that they can use in their daily lives.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Tell us a little bit about any of the instructors that are coming to this, that are teaching healing modalities that you've kind of built trust with while you've been planning this session. Just tell us a little bit about like who you're most excited, who is the most excited to come and help struggling veterans.
I'm really excited about them all for various different reasons. We have the Creative Art for Vet team coming from IU Bloomington. And the instructors there are Todd Burkhart and Amy Barthold. What's cool about that is Amy is a Marine veteran and Todd is an Army veteran of 27 years. He was an M1 tank crewman and an infantry officer. And when you think of, those personalities, you don't often think of art. But Todd was actually the co-founder of Creative Art for Vets. So being able to do art therapy during our retreat is huge, and seeing the different personalities that actually thrive with art therapy that people wouldn't typically associate with art. One of the other ones is Ed Soul. So if you are big into Forged Through Fire, it's a TV show. Season 9 finalist Ed Vol is coming to teach blacksmith to our community. And then we have Ron Ray with Hives for Heroes that's going to be teaching beekeeping. And one of the classes that we also have, and a lot of people are really talking about this a lot right now because of the benefits for cold plunges, is Jesse Coomer is going to be coming out and teaching, and he's a renowned breathwork authority. He teaches at school, and he actually teaches breathwork as an instructor's instructor. So he'll be coming out and teaching breathwork and cold and heat exercises in correlation with that breathwork. So just a lot of great local providers coming in on top of the GSF modalities that are coming in to support the event.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm super pumped about that. It's interesting to hear about the guy that was Army armor, an armor guy. Will was in a armored unit cavalry guy.
Yeah, we was light scout, man. Health those treadheads, man. Those tanker guys, they're no good.
So you go out in front. Don't you go out in front with like shoulder fired or tow missiles, like basically lightweight anti-tank missiles, and try to take out enemy armor so that your armor can come up and be more protected?
In part, depends on what the mission is. I mean, we're basically reconnaissance elements, is what the conventional training was. Iraq was a whole shit went right out the window. But in Korea, which was really where I learned to cut my teeth on what my job was as a scout, and it's a lot of route reconnaissance. Is this route fast? What's the radius of the curves? Can the bridges handle the weight of the tanks? Or maybe you're on a counter reconnaissance mission. They've got their scouts out, so we push our scouts out and we try to find them and pin them. And then basically we're just a jack of all trades, man. We breach, so in some ways we're engineers, or we'll go breach obstacles that may be set up and take those down, or we're forward observers. We put eyes on the objective once we've got to the site, and then we start calling in airstrikes or artillery. Then we can also go assault the objective if we need, or provide support by fire when the assaulting elements come in. And yeah, it was very interesting MOS, but still never once did I ever run into that goddamn motorcycle they showed me on that stupid bullshit recruiting video to try to get me to pick that MOS.
Armor Scout motorcycle?
Yeah, we're not armor. Well, I mean, we're technically under the armor branch, but originally we were 11 Deltas. We were infantry guys back before the Bradley fighting vehicle came onto the scene, and then they had to justify that shithead contractor company that produced the Bradley, so they... the scouts could ride that. Yeah, of course. It's the most sneaky thing in the world. A giant 32-ton diesel engine, loudest thing you can imagine moving and starting up. Yeah, that's what
I'd rather be on a horse.
Yeah, for real, man. The guys in Afghanistan. Yeah, but at any rate, that's a little bit about the scouting world.
Nice. Well, that's cool. Maybe you can. You'll be able to talk to that instructor.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have some good shit talk going on with that guy. Friendly natured. Hope he's got a thick skin. You never know about tankers, man. But
love
He's
it. Yep.
pretty
Yeah. You never
great.
know.
I think you'll love him. He has his doctorate, and he's also a human rights philosopher and teaches the law of war. So I think you guys will have a lot of things to connect on. So it's kind of interesting to hear his story and then see how he's been able to use art therapy to help ground himself and be in a better place mentally.
that's awesome. I'm a big fan of art therapy. It's one of the modalities that when I first was presented to me, I was like, I don't know if I'm an art therapy guy. But then engaging I was able to connect to that message I needed to see come out of me. And it was this really, really cool one where they had the face thing, you know, you paint
The mask.
yeah, you paint this outside mask of what you present to the outside world. And then on the inside, you got to do some no shit assessments
Oh, yeah?
of the dark places of your mind.
Are there prompts?
Yeah, well, the one I did was. I mean, there's 1,000 ways to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know what this particular one is, but I love that one because the inside, you know, it got dark, man, because you're putting on the inside of the mask what's behind the mask, right? So, like, how you see what's inside your head, and on the outside was how you want to be seen to the outside world. And it was through that I'm like, yeah, okay, there's something to this, and I needed to have that experience in that moment. So big fan.
Some humility comes in there.
Oh yeah, talk about getting humble, man.
Just like, give me some more humble.
Yeah.
I feel like that's my life. I'm just like, hey, punch me in the face again, universe, please.
Hey, this is the way, you know.
Yes, this is the way. It is a journey. It is a journey. Please tell us how the fastest way for someone to sign up for this 3-day retreat that we're having in Indy, and it's $55. And if you cannot afford it, you can get a scholarship. IW participants can get a scholarship. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the easiest way currently to access it is to go to www.iwvinsons.com. That'll take you directly to our donor drive landing page, and you'll see a retreat link. And then you just fill out the application from there. If you do need the scholarship, once you open that application link, there's also a link to the scholarship application. So that is the easiest way to access it. You can also find it on irreverentwarriors.com if you go to Indiana, and you can go to either the Indianapolis link or the Vincennes link, and you can also find it there. So we're really excited. There are limited spots now available. So please get registered this week so that you have the opportunity to attend and learn some really great things from our instructors.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and I want to reiterate that all lodging and meals are included in that. Yep. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Stacy.
Yeah, it's good to see you,
Thank you
Stacy.
so much.
I'm seeing so much of you lately. I'm loving it, and we're going to get to see each other again here next week. So that's great. I'm looking forward to that. Thanks for stopping
I'm
by
really
today.
excited about next weekend, and we appreciate your guys' support.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you. Man, I'm really looking forward to it. The weather's going to cooperate. I can feel it. I mean, when I was outside today, I just felt like
Gorgeous.
That's the move. Yeah, 70 degrees, sunny in the Midwest.
Yeah, it's the best.
We're going to be at a gorgeous campground, cabin campground. It's going to be awesome.
I love it. Anything in nature, I'm down for, man. So we're making waves.
Nature is a pharmacy. Nature is a pharmacy.
Well, yeah, that's a good one.
All right. Next up, we've got Anna and Derek from GSF Warcry for Change. So first, I was taken aback. I mean, I know my own journey with the VA and DoD and pharmaceuticals, which my pharmaceutical journey started when I was on active duty in the DoD, in the Marine Corps, and then followed me into the VA and into civilian life. As I said, 25 years of, all these different meds, trying to find that silver bullet to try to help my emotional pain, try to numb my emotional pain. Ended up finding out, I'm not pushing this on anybody, but ended up finding out I had to go deep within, right? And so, we have Derek on the team, who is the Warcry for Change expert on the pharmaceutical overprescription problem and how it correlates so closely with the suicide rate, and some of the scary things that we've learned about all the side effects of these pharmaceuticals, and how I wasn't informed of any of them when I was on active duty. I was not informed of any of them, when I went to the VA. They just prescribe you things and you do what your doctor says, right? And Anna, who is our marketing director, she's always been, humble, quiet, doesn't really push her story in anybody's face. And she just randomly brought it up on Monday that she had an incredibly dangerous experience with pharmaceuticals, both DoD and VA as well. So I wanted to bring her on and ask her to share her story. And I want you to hear it. I want Derek to hear it. And I think it shows a lot of bravery and vulnerability for her to come forward like this.
1,000%. Yeah. Thanks, Anna, for joining us to share your story. We're all ears.
Hello. Not a problem at all. I'm pretty much an open book when it comes to any of this. So if you have any questions or whatever, just let me know. But yeah, I had a kind of unique experience because it was much worse when I was active duty. So a little bit of backstory. I joined the Marine Corps. I have three brothers. I'm the only one that joined the military, so obviously I had something to prove because I joined the Marine Corps. And then I never went to medical as much as I could help it. I was really proud. I didn't think that they could help. I didn't want to be a weak body, things of that nature. And then as time passed, I started having back issues, of course, and then they would give me the occasional muscle relaxer to help me sleep. And that worked well for a while. And then in 2018, I went to a course and I broke my back and I did not know. They kind of kept thinking it was my hip. I make a joke because I was a female. Um, and then I just never ended up getting it taken care of, anything like that. Fast forward to 2020, I would occasionally throw my back out, and I found out later that I was herniating discs, and that had happened, and it was before a squadron hike. And they're like, "Oh, do you want to go on light duty?" I was like, "No, I never been on light duty, never will." So I just took my meds and I went on the hike. And then after that, I was bent over. And that's kind of the start of it. It took me a really, really long time to even get imaging. So they started off by giving me a lot of painkillers, not SSRIs. And that's kind of when I started drinking more and started having a lot of emotional troubles, things like that. And they kept giving me more meds, um, and more meds, and I just couldn't kind of get out from it. This picture is actually after I got out from the VA. Once I started getting rid of them all, I was just getting VA medications in the mail, not knowing what they were for, um, at least a couple of times a week. But when I was active duty, I started having physical health issues. I started having heart issues, gut issues. They didn't have proper care for me. They kept giving me medications to help with those issues. And then I was actually in the worst place mentally I'd ever been in my life, to the point of where I ended up getting medically separated, which kind of broke me from where I had originally started of it was kind of proving myself, and then it was like the most humbling experience. But the mental break that I had, I turned into a completely different person. I hated myself uh because of what I didn't know what was going on. And when I finally got out of the military because I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do things. Um, I transitioned to utilizing cannabis and naturally kind of just went off the medications and started realizing how much they were affecting me. I went through hyperbaric oxygen treatment and it was life changing. And then I kind of got curious because I wasn't really taking the meds. I was trying not to take the meds that the VA was giving me. I was literally telling my psychiatrist, I do not want these medications. I probably have so many secure messages. I've had to apologize to her because I've gotten so upset. Of like, you're not listening to me. These things are making me worse. They're making me want to end my life. Um, and yeah, finally, I like looked up all the interactions and everything like that. I think at one point in time I had 12 different medications at once while I was active duty, at least. And I looked up the interactions, and they were like, never take together. The side effects cause alcohol cravings and like suicidal ideations. That's in the effects, and I was never told about any of it. When I was telling my doctors about the things that the interactions were causing, they never told me, and it just like it broke me before I even got into the VA system of like doctors don't know what's going on. And now, as I'm still in the health system, especially as a female, um, like my whole body, they just have no idea what's going on with me still. And yeah, so the only thing I can get is meds. I finally got all my referrals, and then as I'm going to my appointments, I get these notifications that they're canceling them. So like I can't go to my scheduled appointments because they canceled my referrals. It's just a hot mess of a system. But I just I know some people need medication, and um for instance, I was on man, I can't remember what it was. It was basically for depression, but I used it as kind of a crutch as opposed to like glasses. My thing is like you use a crutch till you can walk again. Um, and I was able to use that for 3 months and kind of get started again at least. But some people I know need meds for a long time. I just wish people knew that it's never just the answer. It's always, always, always going to come with side effects. Like, I think I'm special, and for some reason, these common side effects won't affect me. But if people knew, then they could understand that, okay, there's a trade-off. I might be able to go around and do stuff, but gonna have severe GI issues, or this part of my mental health will get worse. But yeah, it started off with, I think it was trazodone or tizanidine, or something, which I found out you're only supposed to be prescribed for acute injuries, like up to 2 weeks. And I was on it for I think 3 years, to be taken nightly. For that was for sleep. Like so, I was on like 3 or 4 different painkillers for 4 different things that weren't pain.
That's the first of all, I just want to say there's a bunch of parts of that story I'd never heard before, and your courage and vulnerability of sharing that with us. I'm truly inspired by your willingness to share this with the community. That sounded like a really tough road, and it sounded like a really tough valley to be in. I want Derek to react and weigh in on all the different probably patterns that he's seen in the veteran community and the active duty community with the different things that Anna walked through. And one thing that completely shocked me that I'd never heard of before was alcohol craving. Derek, talk a little bit about that. I didn't even know that that was a thing, but I definitely should have been aware of that.
No, absolutely. Well, I've known Anna for the past year or so. In this conversation that we're driving here about over medication, the role of medications and suicides, other harms, like you mentioned, the alcohol cravings. Didn't talk about sexual dysfunction, but this is a major issue with a lot of these medications, and the drug companies have known this all along. FDA, they had a petition that they received in 2018 calling for research investigations into this issue of persistent sexual dysfunction post SSRIs. They failed to respond and are now being sued by a big national nonprofit organization focused on exposing harms and correcting injustices. And we had a really great conversation when we were in Missouri at the campground, the IW retreat. And it was there that a lot of folks heard me talking for the first time, and they came up to me after and during, and the conversation was very thoughtful. People were asking a lot of questions because this impacted almost everybody in the room. And Anna, just a couple of days ago, shared the list of medications that she was on. And no matter how many times I hear these stories, and I know that as we were setting up for this conversation, you kind of wanted me to react because I hadn't heard Anna's story. I knew the medication list, but I hadn't heard her story. And it doesn't get any easier to hear, no matter how many times I've heard it. And Anna is not an isolated case. She is, I'd argue, representative of probably a quarter to half of active duty troops and veterans minimum at post-military service. We know prescription rates in active duty for the last year of service from a research out of Columbia University is like 37 to 43% prescription rate of psychiatric drugs in the last year of service to active duty troops, at least for those who are a part of the study. And then you've got like a 24% number of vets that actually go to the VA in their first year after discharge. And so you got like a 13-point divide right there on the number of vets being prescribed a medication and then going out of taking off the uniform, going to the civilian sector and not going to the VA. And many vets don't go to the VA. They have their own private health care, but there's a big chunk of those folks that are just stopping their medications cold turkey and causing catastrophic harm to themselves. And they had no idea, as Anna shared. Like, we've got so many horror stories of this, from Shannon McDaniel lost her son Hunter two and a half years ago. He was at Abbey Gate in Afghanistan during the withdrawal. He was a Marine. He had been prescribed mirtazapine while as a student veteran at the University of Alabama, and a month and a half later he was dead. And the OIG investigation found exactly what we've been saying for the past year, and I've been saying for 8 years now. And Will, you and I talked about this extensively. Failure to provide informed consent, failure to provide safe medication management, failure. And it's all around medications. But we're not having this show up in our annual suicide reports from the VA. We're not having this really robust discussion in our community, at least until now. Now, today, we're actually having this conversation nationally. Like we talked about the June 5th event, where we've got veterans of foreign wars. And as of just yesterday, Disabled American Veterans came on board as one of our lead partners on this event. So huge shout out to DAV, huge shout out to VFW for elevating this conversation. So people like Anna, Will, Hugh, Derek, and the rest of us out there can have our voices heard. But Anna, I value you immensely, and you using your voice to help others is incredibly powerful. And I just love the way you talk about this, and that it's very understanding for others who are on medications or have a concern or may feel like they're being helped. Like, our calls to action are not to take anybody's treatments away from them if they feel it's working for them. It's making it safer for everybody through greater information for the patients and doctors. And so I'd love to hear more, Anna. Like, what are your thoughts, and kind of like, what did you learn? What have you been learning about your experiences later on down the road? Because like, probably when you're going through this, just like I was on a 6-drug cocktail. Like, I was a shit show, but I didn't know it. I was just a mess. And it wasn't until later on that I learned all this stuff.
Yeah, it was like really hard. It was super hard because I had completely lost myself and felt like I was losing all of my relationships. Um, thank God for Nate, because he kind of helped me be aware and push beyond the darkness for something I loved more than just wanting to have everything end. Looking back, I probably should have gotten it off it with doctors, but I had, and still kind of do, have a very serious mistrust of their intentions or what they're aware of. I've had a lot of mistakes happen throughout my um, medical existence, I guess. Both procedures and surgeries I had while I was in the Marine Corps were messed up. And now I'm dealing with the consequences of that, to the point of where I need another surgery, but I'm a little worried about getting another surgery with you guys. But like I said, the cannabis helps. That really, really helped me a lot. I was sick for a long time though. I was really like physically sick for a long time, and I realized later that it must have been from the medications. I'm thankful that I didn't have much worse side effects, although I don't know if that's something that I'm dealing with now. I will say also the hyperbaric oxygen treatment helped me in ways that I would have never thought. I have a lot of concussions, but nothing that I would consider a serious TBI or something. But it helped lift my brain from a fog I didn't even know it was in. Um, but yeah, it was the darkest place I'd ever been in my life, and I was so confused because I had been through worse things, and that made me worse. And I felt like there was nothing that I could do to stop it. And so now I just throw my stuff into ChatGPT and ask, what should I ask my doctors? What are they missing? What do I need to ask them to do? And Chat's like, well, you should get tested for this, you should get tested for this, and you should get tested for this. Again, these are all recommendations. And it's also like, oh, by the way, your labs are entered as male labs, so they're probably incorrect. So it's just like, I'm totally fine talking about all these things because I wish someone talked to me about it, and I'd rather just get my story out there so other people will be like, "Oh, wait, that's happening to me too." So one, they're not feeling alone, and then two, our voices do get to get heard because this isn't an isolated incident, especially as a female. The majority of female who have gynecological issues because they weren't able to get proper care while they're in the military or something like that, and then still even after, or like, the sexual dysfunction, all of those things. It's horrible what it causes to everyone. And turns out it's not just toxic exposure or like burn pits, it's the very medications that they're giving us. Um, so it's just like, the most frustrating thing is when I'm telling them I don't want these because these are the side effects. I've taken to the point of secure messaging them and telling them these things so I know it's in my record. Where I'm like, this medication made me want to die. And now you're trying to give me another medication which side effects cause anxiety, depression, insomnia, but you know that I have these other things in my medical record. Like, how are you not making those connections either? So it's just, I do feel like a lot of the medical personnel, they care. Uh, 70% of the time, they do care. They want to try, and they're stuck within a really horrible system. But yeah, it's overwhelming, especially because I still have no answers.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Question for Derek. Derek, Anna was telling us in her story that she was placed on a medication that is designed to be for severe short-term, type situations, not really to be used for much longer than that short window that it's necessary. And like Anna, I have ran into many people just like her that have these same stories, and sometimes these people are on these short-term intentioned pills for years, and I mean extensive numbers of years. So I guess my question that I'd love for you to unpack for me is, if I'm aware that these things are not meant to be used for years, how in the hell are the healthcare providers that are giving these people and then these pills and then managing their care, how are they not aware of it? And I assume they are. Then how do they defend their actions of keeping people on these things? And then my follow-up question, if you could add the context to it, why are these things supposed to be short-term pills? What is the reasoning behind that? Why are they dangerous? Like, what's going on?
Well, first, I want to kick back to Hugh. You're not going to win any awards here for your decades-long drug cocktail. Welcome to the club. I'm not sure if that's the right way of treating this, but welcome to the club. A lot of these medications were not studied long-term. Antidepressants, we still have almost zero longitudinal studies on efficacy, never mind safety. For almost the entire class of SSRIs, their trials were 2 weeks in length each, 6 weeks in length total. The drug companies only submit 2 of these studies to the FDA. They could have conducted dozens of them, and ultimately submitted the 2 that showed maybe some level of efficacy. And having read the PDAC, or the Psychopharmacological Drug Advisory Committee hearing transcripts, the entire debate, the entire conversation amongst all these doctors, these 10 doctors and researchers, was efficacy, and they couldn't even agree that the drugs were even working. And so largely what we're dealing with is a problem of corruption. And I it took me a while to get here to this level of distrust. But when you research this issue in enough depth, you will find the criminal prosecutions of the major drug makers, Pfizer, Lilly, GlaxoSmithKline, $3 billion settlement with the Department of Justice for GlaxoSmithKline for off-label marketing of Wellbutrin, and a study on Paxil for kids, which the government actually incentivized GSK to conduct. Study 329, which really basically broke open the doors for all the other drug companies to prescribe their SSRIs to kids. What they did is they hired a researcher at Brown University to conduct the study. They hired a marketing firm to ghostwrite the study. I wish I'm making this up because it sounds so absurd, but this is actually industry practice. And the folks that wrote the study never saw the raw trial data. They never saw the full raw trial data set. And had they done so, they would have found efficacy was that of placebo, and there were completed suicides in the trial, which was not the way that report was published. And so, unfortunately, where we're at today, because of undue influence of the drug companies over our healthcare system and over our government, and this goes back 50, 60, 70 years, like the benzodiazepines are the ones especially that are not supposed to be prescribed for long-term, 2 weeks max. We actually had an epidemic of benzodiazepine prescribing when the first drugs came out back in 1955, from 55 to 79. Ted Kennedy held hearings in the United States Senate about the epidemic of benzodiazepine prescribing. And what you saw during that period was a near doubling of women's suicides during that period. And when you start looking at all the data, prescription rates, and everything else, you start finding that benzodiazepine prescribing had been solely targeted towards women. They actually came up, big shocker. Let's go to the widescreen so everybody can see it. We can see everybody. Who would be surprised if Arthur Sackler was not involved in this? Weird, right? He is his company that came up with a campaign for Mother's Little Helper. They market it towards, hey, if you're dealing with your little brat kids, if your husband's a jerk, Mother's Little Helper's here for you. This is Valium and Librium. And then that's where Arthur Sackler made the original money for the family, was marketing benzodiazepines for Roche. And for this is benzos.
Yeah, broccoli.
Oh yes. This is Oxy. Yes. This is a big shocker. This all comes together, and what we have is a crisis that has been manufactured over the course of decades. And now here we have the faces of this epidemic of Anna and me and Brian Brumfield having lost his 22-year-old son, Brian and Kim, to after being prescribed Wellbutrin for 8 days. And again, in the medical records, and I'd encourage everybody here to do so. Don't study them because it'll drive you insane. It's a traumatic thing reviewing your psychiatric medical records. Because you're seeing the doctor's notes about you, but you look for a language where they are supposed to have told you about the risks and benefits of your treatment. And if it's not in there, the clinician, whether it's a DOD, whether it's a VA or not, they're violating federal law and practice, and that they are supposed to be providing informed consent to their patients. And that's exactly what the VA OIG found with the death of Hunter Whitley, Shannon McDaniel's son in Alabama. So,
this question again, I want to go back to that original point. With these pills that we know are short-term pills that they give us for these long-terms anyway, are you aware of anyone directly holding their feet to the fire on that specifically?
I don't know of an individual doctor that's gotten prosecuted for it. I actually had a conversation with the journalist just a couple days ago about this, asking. So they're doing this long form investigation that's going to be coming out in the next few weeks, and they're asking these questions about drug cocktails and polypharma. I pose the question there are these doctors that are doing this putting someone like Anna or myself or anybody else on 6 or 10 or 12 or 15, or my friend Angie Peacock, 18 different drugs at the same time? Anybody that hears this understands quickly that this should be illegal. Like there's zero evidence to show this is safe. Mental health leadership in VA will agree that anything more than 3 medications at a time results in diminishing outcomes for the patient. And so when you have a 10 drug, 12 drug cocktail, there's no amount of research they could have conducted to make sure that medication, all those medications are going to interact safely. And what we do know is that most of these drugs have huge risk profiles long term. And so benzodiazepines is a big one. Actually, benzos is a big one. Like going back 15 years, the VA has known and published reports and articles and even training modules on benzodiazepines and how they should not be getting prescribed for PTSD because there's no efficacy for it. They don't have the data to support this is safe. And they actually found it actually results in negative outcomes. And so they've been working on this for like 10, 12, 15 years. But the folks in the field, the doctors, they didn't receive this education in med school. They were not trained on this at all.
So, well, we're going to ask them on the 5th. I think we need to be super abundantly loud on that particular question. I mean, it's a great, I think it's the highlight of the most egregious part of it. Like all the cocktail itself is crazy, doing all these different pills with all their side effects. But look, man, it's not like we're bringing in novice first year med school people to dispense out these super big gun psychotropics that are not meant for long-term use. I want to hear a justification on that, or I want the concession that there is no justification for that. I'll take either at this point, but I want to cram that down some throats. And can you tell us a little bit here? We're coming up towards the top of the hour now. Could you give us the lowdown on what you have planned in June the 5th, and that we want everybody within the sound of our voice that's able to get there and join us to come raise a little hell with us? Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. So we've put together a whole series of events on June 4th and 5th in Washington, D.C., the U.S. Capitol. We've got a film screening of Medicating Normal. My friend Angela Peacock, who is a featured subject in the film, and now globally recognized deprescribing expert and withdrawal coach. We've got a whole litany of global experts, Dr. Peter Gocha, Robert Whitaker, Kim Witzak, a host of others, along with surviving families, those who've lost their loved ones. Dr. Larry Miller lost his son, Mark, sadly took his own life in front of the San Antonio VA last month. Brian and Kim Brumfield, Shannon McDaniel, and veterans with lived experiences, Diana Hazel Rodriguez, who had her own incredible event around this issue with Prozac. So June 4th, we're holding a film screening in Washington, D.C. We'll be getting the registration links up next week. 9 a.m. the next day, we're going to be hosting a press conference. Some of these locations are to be determined. We've got some surprises for everybody in store, but we're partnering with the VFW, DAV, and other organizations on the series of events. 9 a.m., we're doing the press conference. Immediately following, you're doing a hike and heal hosted by Reverend Warriors. So big shout out to the IW crowd out there. Matthew Reeves, I see you. I saw your post earlier. Glad you're here, brother. We are also then at noon holding a roundtable, largely focused on helping to educate congressional staff and leaders in Congress on this issue, because most people just are unaware. Because you talked about these big gun psychotropics. The problem is that we're not treating them as their big gun treatments. We're treating them as just like a doctor tried to prescribe me an antidepressant a year and a half ago, which they obviously hadn't read my medical records. I said, I don't feel comfortable with the risk profiles of that medication. And it was an SSRI. And we began the conversation with, how about we try this? Or let's try this. And not, hey, this is a real treatment that we have to really discuss. And when I said I didn't feel comfortable with the risk profile, her response was, there are some known side effects. And so what we have largely is, I think, a lot of doctors and a lot of clinicians that just don't understand. In order to accept that all these people are deliberately causing harm, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of doctors, they didn't go into medicine to hurt people. But unfortunately, because of their poor training, their lack of education on withdrawal issues, major side effects, we were told 2 to 4% sexual dysfunction rate while taking SSRIs. We learned later it's like a 50% while on the medication, and then for many it's permanent or can be permanent. So they didn't learn this stuff in medical school. They didn't learn that it can take years to get off of an antidepressant or one of these medications. And our goal here is to make them smarter and make Congress more aware so they can make the decisions they need to make our American public and our veterans healthier, happier, and safer. So
it's almost like we're trying to rediscover what was once lost. You know, when I was a kid, I grew up in the Ozark Mountains in a town of under 2,000 people, the only town in the whole county. If you wanted to go to McDonald's, you're doing an hour and a half drive to the closest big city, to get you some McDonald's. And I had a little country doctor who's the same dude that delivered my other three siblings, me. I mean, he could do it all. Take your tonsils out. He could, you name it. This Doc Gentry was the guy's name. It was like we lived on fucking Little House on the Prairie or something. But
nice, I like it.
That guy could literally do anything. And now you've got these doctors that. I'm happy when they speak English when I go to the VA, and then I get these 2 minutes of their time, and a lot of that's me trying to figure out how to make sure they understand what I'm wanting to discuss.
The problem is,
right.
what the issue is,
and that's just not part of the program, man. You just need to settle down, and we'll get to you before we scream at you and tell you how they can't control your benefits. Has usually been my experience. But it's just like, what is going on? Is it getting this bad in the civilian sector as well, where the doctors are just continually getting worse and worse? And it's like, I mean, I know that the big pharma is writing the textbooks for med schools now. So are we? It's like our education system, right? We removed all the classical education, the liberal arts, and all the things from a classical education, and now we teach people basically how to be good little worker bees. Is this the same thing going on in the medical field with these drugs?
Mm-hmm.
I know that the profitability that most of when I worked at Express Scripts and we worked with hospitals, and then when I worked in corporate strategy consulting and we worked with different insurance and hospital groups, the idea is always to maximize profit. And so if you can stack up a lot of patients and have a doctor spend 5 minutes with each patient going down the line, it's just basically a supply chain operation made extremely efficient in order to maximize revenue and maximize profit. Mm-hmm. So I know that that's just a natural direction that business strategy has gone. What's the most efficient and what's the highest amount of revenue and the highest profitability we can squeeze out of any given system, right? And that's just a direction it's gone. And I think there needs to be a correction toward patient experience.
Yeah.
And I think patient experience, when it's weighed and prioritized by those groups and those leadership teams against revenue and profitability and revenue win.
Yeah.
And so,
it's just so corrupt. I mean, it's like there's watchdog groups. This industry is incredibly regulated. I mean, you would have essentially Big Pharma would have to somehow own or control all of the watchdog mechanisms that are built into that system, which is impressively large. I mean, nothing moves fast in any kind of regulatory anything.
Sure.
We're still got cannabis is still Schedule 1. I mean, it's just crazy, weird stuff like that.
Yeah.
It makes no sense, but, we need to have a reckoning or something in this country and get this thing pulled back under control, because this is crazy. And there's so many different instances. Our friend Mike, just the quality of the healthcare and the torture that he received at those things. And I do want all our IW people know that out there that love Mike and are familiar with that whole story and how tragic that is. That
rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Mike. But we're not going to rest. There's some reckoning coming on that as well. Derek, you got an update for us on our efforts towards that end, whatever they may be at this point that we could talk about?
I don't want to go into it too much. I think that's up for the family to help lead that conversation. But they've been talking with attorneys and looking at this and trying to understand what exactly happened. And from at least what I was told, some of Mike's last words to his brother were sue. I don't think it's because there's any motivation for money for the family or anything like that. This is a matter of making sure this doesn't happen to the rest of our brothers and sisters. I think that's the goal. If I could, I'd like to ask Anna one more question before I wrap up. Everybody listening to this, hearing a lot of things kind of for the first time. They may be hearing your story, hearing my story, hearing Hugh and Will talk. And with my experience, there was like an epiphany moment where I was at the bottom. I was on a full out drug cocktail living in my parents' basement, and I think about 6 drugs at a time. And I remember the exact spot on my parents' lawn where I was mowing it, trying to think of the logistics of how do I make this life work of a fully disabled person where I'm not able to function in the world. And how do I not become a total burden on my family? That, and there was another moment that really were kind of the epiphany moments for me that made me realize something is not right here. And it resulted in me going down this path of self-correction. One, was there a moment for you? And then 2, what counsel would you give to those listening? Because like when I had my experience, I went off the medications on my own. I thought I was following the guidelines that are out there, tapered for 2 weeks. That was recommended what I found on in all the literature. But 1, was there an epiphany moment for you? And then 2, what would you recommend to folks if they are looking at considering making any changes to their treatments?
Yeah. Just to touch real quick on the surgeries thing too, if you want my stories on the 2 surgeries I had that also were messed up while I was active duty and then with the VA, I can give that to you later. But it was kind of a pretty long journey. I think me getting out of the Marine Corps is kind of, and breaking that total cycle is what helped me kickstart it, that complete change of environment, scenery, people. But the biggest thing was, Nate, my husband. And the reason why is because he had to drag me out of things for a long time to a point of where I knew if I was going to keep going down the path that I was going to go down, I was going to lose everything. And something had to change. So that was trusting in him before, like, above myself, which was really, really hard. Trusting that he was right, that it wasn't me, and then kind of realizing like that gave me hope. Was like, as I was getting off all of the medications, was like, wow, all of those awful things, the terribleness going on in my brain wasn't actually me. It was being caused by something else. It's still pretty overwhelming because I still don't really have answers, but the biggest thing that I can say is you have to advocate for yourself. And if don't just take an answer, look it up, research it. I had a doctor try to prescribe me medications and told me to go look up the studies, which I did. And I told her that I didn't want to take these medications because it had no actual positive side effects and also caused, like, a woman completed suicide on the medication. And it said due to external circumstances. And I was like, based on my mental health, I don't want to be on this medication. So I got a different doctor. It's an exhausting journey, even in the civilian side. So get backup, and by that, try to have a friend that's supportive. Keep notes, secure message, but just don't give up, because you're going to hopefully eventually find someone who will be able to give you what you need, but you're going to have to go through 10 people who are going to say it's in your head first. But
Good
yeah,
job.
there's a lot of those
Yep.
moments in the darkness.
Thanks, Anna.
But
And
yeah.
everything you just said, I want to have you on again for sure to say that again, because taking back your own authority and empowering yourself and building your own confidence to take your journey back and to take your healing journey back, that is so powerful. That for sure, I think, needs to be said over and over and over to this group. And you inspire me so much. Thank you again for your vulnerability. And thank you, Derek, for weighing in, of course, with your subject matter expertise on this issue. I look forward to June 5th. We're going to end with a funny email that we received. And Anna, you're going to be put on the spot here. So I'm going to read a funny email that and anybody out there that wants to email us, info@irreverentwarriors.com. So this is a funny email we received, and I want you to give first your professional response as the marketing director of IW, and then I want you to give your personal response.
Okay.
All right. Subject: urgent question about tank tops. Do the silkies have to be worn with a shirt, or is it against regulation to be totally upper body free? Asking for a friend named Also Me. And it came from Taylor. So, not sure if we're talking about a woman or a man. Go.
Yeah, I would definitely just quote our code of conduct, which says that breasts and buttocks and genitals must be covered, and then we recommend bringing a shirt for the stops, things along those
Great.
lines. Yeah.
Great. That was a very serious response. I would say, if
I
I
would
didn't
also
work at
then, if I
IW,
had their whole name, I'd try to find them on social media for my regular response and see who they were. Or just say if you're wearing a bro, I don't know, instead of a bra.
yeah, I would say, working at IW, I would quote everything that you said. And then if I didn't work at IW, I would say, do you.
Yeah. Or honestly, I would just say you have to wear a bra no matter what.
Oh, that's good. That's good. No matter who you are, you have to wear a bra. Good. I love it. All right, good. Well, thank you so much for joining us, everybody, today. We really appreciate your time. And thank you so much to our audience for staying engaged. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without you. See you at the next hike. And Will, any final words?
Let's get it done, man. Looking forward to seeing everybody over in Indiana in a few days. So
Awesome.
Catch you on the flip side, guys.
Awesome.
Take care.
Peace. Till next time.